Hey guys, and welcome back. It's really nice to have you here again, and I really appreciate every one of you who returns to listen, relax, and drift into these ancient tales with me. Today's story is a truly powerful one: the divine and dramatic birth of Athena, the goddess of wisdom, war, and destiny itself. A tale of prophecy, fear, struggle, and the moment when pure intellect burst into the world with the force of a thunderbolt. Before we begin, please make sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel. This really helps me a lot, and it means we can continue exploring these timeless stories together. Now, settle in, get comfortable, and enjoy the story. Have fun!
The storm within the King of Gods. In the age after thunder conquered chaos, when Zeus ruled supreme over gods and men, peace reigned across Olympus, yet not within the heart of its king. For even the mightiest of gods cannot silence the whispers of prophecy. The skies were calm, the world was young, and Zeus sat upon his golden throne, master of storm and justice. Yet deep within him stirred unease, an invisible tempest waiting to break. The wise ones of the cosmos, Gaia, the earth herself, and Uranus, the ancient sky, had spoken a warning to Zeus. They told him that from his union with Metis, the goddess of wisdom and cunning counsel, would come a child of great power, a daughter of intellect and strength, born to rival all others. And if fate were allowed to continue, a second child, a son, might rise to challenge Zeus's throne, as he himself had done to his father before him. And so the seed of fear was planted in the mind of the King of Gods. He who had overthrown Cronus now faced the same shadow of destiny, the eternal circle of power and downfall. Zeus, the ruler of thunder, the breaker of chains, found himself bound by doubt. Above Olympus, the clouds began to gather. The winds whispered Metis' name, for she was not only wise but kind, beloved by all who sought reason over wrath. She had guided Zeus through the Titanomachy, offering strategy when brute force alone would have failed. Yet now, her brilliance was both blessing and curse. Zeus looked out across the heavens and saw the shimmering outline of his beloved, radiant in thought and grace. His heart ached with love and dread alike. He knew that prophecy was not easily denied, and yet he could not abandon her. It was as if the universe itself conspired to test his rule. Not through armies or storms, but through wisdom, the very thing that had made him great. The thunder rolled softly in the distance, like the murmur of fate. Somewhere in that sound was the first cry of a goddess yet unborn, a spark of brilliance waiting to ignite. And so begins the story of the storm within the King of Gods. A tale not of war or conquest, but of mind and birth, of fear and wisdom intertwined. Before Athena would rise to stand among the immortals, the heavens themselves would tremble with the pain of creation, and from the depths of Zeus's own being, a new light would be born. Part 1. The Prophecy of Metis. In the early days of Olympus, when the air was thick with new divinity and the mountains still echoed with the cries of creation, Zeus, King of Gods, ruler of thunder, found himself captivated by a being unlike any other. Her name was Metis, daughter of Oceanus and Tethys, goddess of wisdom and deep thought. She was the voice of reason that tamed his tempest, the calm in the eye of his eternal storm. Where others worshipped his might, Metis spoke to his mind. She saw through thunder and lightning into the fears he dared not speak. With her words, she could quiet his wrath or guide it with purpose. In her presence, Zeus felt something rare, balance. And so he loved her, not with the reckless passion of a god who conquers, but with the reverence of one who understands the power of thought. Yet as love bloomed upon Olympus, so too did the whispers of fate. Deep within the roots of the earth, Gaia, the primal mother, stirred, her voice resonating through the world like the hum of distant thunder. She, alongside Uranus, the ancient sky, foresaw what was to come. They spoke not in words, but in the immutable truth of prophecy. Beware, Zeus. The child of Metis shall be unlike any before her, a daughter born of wisdom and war, powerful beyond measure. And should a son follow, he will rise to overthrow you, as you once did to your father. The prophecy fell upon Zeus like a blade of ice. The warning echoed in his mind, a cruel reflection of his own past. For he knew well the pattern of the cosmos. Son against father, power consuming power. Cronus had devoured his children to prevent his fall, and yet Zeus had escaped and fulfilled that very fate. Now the cycle threatened to begin anew, and so the Lord of Olympus faced an impossible choice: love or survival, trust in destiny or defy it. Zeus's heart battled his reason, just as thunder wars with silence before a storm. Could he allow Metis to bear this child, knowing it might bring his undoing? Could he, who ruled over gods and mortals, bend before the will of fate? But Zeus was not one to be ruled, not by gods, nor prophecy, nor even love. He resolved to act before destiny could claim him, and so began a chain of decisions that would shape the future of Olympus itself, a choice that would give birth not just to a goddess, but to the very embodiment of wisdom and war. The skies dimmed as Zeus pondered his path, torn between fear and affection, justice and self-preservation. Deep within him, the thunder rumbled, a warning of what was to come. For even the wisest act of defiance can carry the seeds of its own destruction. Part 2. The Devouring of Metis. Metis, his beloved, his counsel, his equal, had become the vessel of prophecy. She carried within her the child foretold, a being of wisdom and strength, born from both intellect and divine power. And though Zeus adored her, the words of Gaia still echoed in his mind like the toll of fate's final bell. One child shall rise, wise and radiant, the prophecy had said, but another shall come, and he will overthrow you. Zeus could not escape it. The fear of his father's fate haunted him like a shadow at dusk. He remembered the stories of Cronus, devouring his own children one by one in a desperate bid to stop destiny. Zeus had freed those siblings, had slain that tyrant, and sworn he would never become like him. Yet now, faced with the same cruel pattern, the same merciless prophecy, he found himself standing before the same terrible choice. And so, in the stillness of that divine twilight, Zeus approached Metis. She smiled when she saw him, unaware of the storm gathering behind his eyes. "My lord," she said softly, her voice like the rustle of leaves over calm water. "What troubles you?" Zeus reached out, his hand trembling not from weakness, but from dread. "You know I love you," he murmured. "You are wisdom itself, and yet even wisdom cannot outrun fate." Before she could speak another word, the god of gods acted. In a single, terrible instant, Zeus opened his mouth and, with divine force, swallowed Metis whole. The world fell silent. The winds ceased. Even the rivers held their breath. He stood there, shaking, his thunderous heart pounding within him like war drums. He believed he had triumphed, that he had outwitted prophecy itself. No child could be born now. No threat could rise. Within him, the danger was contained. But what Zeus did not understand was that Metis did not die. Wisdom cannot be destroyed. It can only transform. Within the vast chambers of his being, Metis lived on, her mind sharper than ever, her essence now fused with his. And in the depths of that divine union, something began to stir. A spark of life. A pulse of creation. Metis was with child, and though her body was gone, her spirit continued to nurture it. Inside Zeus's mind, the unborn goddess grew, cradled not in flesh, but in thought itself. She absorbed the thunder, the lightning, the divine intellect of both parents. She was forged in the furnace of power and tempered by wisdom. And so, without realizing it, Zeus carried within him not destruction, but destiny. The prophecy had not been stopped. It had merely changed form. As days turned to months, Zeus began to feel strange. A pressure behind his eyes, a brilliance that flared within his skull like trapped lightning. He could not sleep. He could not think. Visions and voices filled his mind, whispers of strategy, echoes of reason, the voice of Metis herself, murmuring from within. "Do not fear wisdom, my love, for from wisdom all strength is born." Zeus groaned, clutching his temples as the heavens quaked above him. Something extraordinary was coming. Not a curse, but a creation unlike anything Olympus had ever seen. And though Zeus believed he had ended fate, he was now the very instrument of its fulfillment. Part 3. The Agony of Zeus. The days that followed were unlike any the heavens had ever seen. The mighty Zeus, Lord of thunder, ruler of Olympus, master of storms, began to suffer. Not from blade or poison or curse, but from something far more insidious, something within. At first, it was only a whisper of discomfort, a strange pressure behind his eyes, as if lightning itself had taken root inside his skull. He ignored it, believing it to be the remnants of divine tension, the residue of swallowing the goddess of wisdom. But soon the pressure became pain, and the pain became torment. Thunder rolled through his mind, not from the clouds he commanded, but from within his very being. His temples throbbed like war drums of the gods, each beat shaking the marble halls of Olympus. He clutched his head, roaring in agony, and his cry split the skies. Mountains trembled, seas churned. The air itself seemed to bend under the force of his suffering. The other gods gathered in alarm. Hera, proud and commanding, was the first to approach. "Zeus," she cried, her voice echoing through the golden halls, "what madness afflicts you?" But he could not answer. Words escaped him. His hands clawed at his temples, as if trying to tear out the storm imprisoned inside. Poseidon rose from the depths, his trident gleaming with ocean spray. "Brother, speak! Has some enemy bewitched you?" But Zeus only groaned, a sound so terrible that even the immortal ears of the gods ached to hear it. Aphrodite turned her face away, weeping for the beauty of the heavens now marred by divine anguish. Hermes, ever swift and curious, raced to find a cure. But what mortal or god could heal the mind of Zeus himself? Days turned into nights, yet no peace came. Sleep abandoned him. Dreams twisted into visions of blinding light and endless thunder. He felt something, alive, moving within him, pressing, burning, demanding to be released. Each flash of pain brought a strange brilliance to his eyes, as though lightning were trying to escape through them. "Release me," whispered a voice, faint as wind through olive leaves. Zeus froze. He knew that voice. It was Metis. Her presence stirred within his mind, calm, wise, unyielding. And behind her, another presence, young, fierce, radiant. A consciousness growing stronger with each pulse of divine agony. Zeus staggered to his knees, lightning spilling from his fingertips, his golden crown falling to the marble floor with a crash that echoed across Olympus. The very heavens seemed to pulse in rhythm with his suffering. Each bolt of thunder that once obeyed him now mocked him, bursting from his body uncontrolled. The gods stood helpless. They, who had seen war, death, and chaos, had never witnessed pain like this. Pain that even immortality could not dull. "Help me," Zeus thundered, his voice splitting the sky. "Something is breaking inside my head." It was then that Hephaestus, god of the forge, stepped forward. his hammer glowing with divine fire. He bowed deeply and spoke with trembling reverence. "My king, if the pain cannot be cured, perhaps it must be released." Zeus nodded, eyes blazing like twin storms. "Then do it," he commanded, his voice half plea, half thunderclap. "End this torment before it consumes me." And as Hephaestus raised his hammer high, the heavens held their breath, for they knew that whatever emerged from this agony would change Olympus forever. Part 4. The Birth of Athena. And so it was that Hephaestus, the divine craftsman, stood before the king of gods, his great hammer blazing with the fire of creation. The gods gathered in fearful silence around Zeus, who knelt upon the marble floor of Olympus, thunder still trembling in his veins. The sky above was dark and restless, clouds circling like vultures, lightning bleeding through their edges. Even the winds dared not breathe. Hephaestus hesitated for only a moment. To strike the skull of Zeus was unthinkable, a blasphemy that no immortal could ever dream of committing. But the agony in Zeus's eyes was beyond reason, beyond pride, beyond power. And so, with a deep breath, the smith god lifted his hammer high, forged from the heart of a star, and brought it down upon Zeus's brow. A sound like the cracking of the world split the air. The heavens shuddered. From the wound in Zeus's head burst not blood, but light, brilliant, golden, and blinding as the sun. The gods fell to their knees as the radiance expanded, swallowing the throne room of Olympus in divine fire. Thunder roared, winds howled, and from the storm of light came a cry, clear, fierce, and echoing across eternity. It was the cry of Athena. From her father's head she emerged, not as a child, but fully grown, magnificent, and terrible in her beauty. Her eyes gleamed with wisdom, colder than the stars, sharper than any blade. Her armor shimmered like molten gold, her spear blazing with the brilliance of thought and lightning combined. A shield rested upon her arm, the Aegis, crowned with the visage of the Gorgon, a symbol of divine power and intellect. She stood before the gods, radiant and unshaken, her birth cry still reverberating through the mountains and the seas. The very earth quaked beneath her feet. Rivers changed their course. The oceans bowed in awe. The sky cleared above her, as if the heavens themselves recognized their new guardian, not of destruction, but of wisdom, justice, and war. Zeus fell back, his pain gone, replaced by wonder. The storm within him had not destroyed him. It had given birth to something greater. And as he gazed upon Athena, he saw not just his daughter, but his equal, the living embodiment of his own divine mind. The gods whispered her name with reverence. Apollo lowered his head. Artemis smiled in quiet respect. Even Ares, god of war, trembled at the sound of her voice. Athena looked upon Olympus for the first time. Her eyes, clear and calm, yet filled with infinite knowledge, swept over the assembly. And then she spoke. "I am Athena," she declared, her voice both thunder and thought, born of wisdom and storm. "I come not as a child of weakness, but as the mind of Olympus made flesh. I bring not chaos, but order, not destruction, but the knowledge of how to wield it." Her words rang through the halls, silencing every whisper. The echo of her first step upon Olympus became legend. For from that moment on, no battle, no judgment, no craft of the mind would be untouched by her presence. And so the pain of Zeus gave birth to divine intellect, and from thunder wisdom was born. The world would remember that day forever, the day the heavens split open, and from the mind of the king of gods emerged the goddess of wisdom, Athena, radiant, eternal, and indomitable. Part 5. The awe of the gods. Silence fell over Olympus. vast, deep, and trembling with awe. Not the silence of fear, but of reverence, of realization. The thunder had quieted. The light that once blinded now softened into a radiant glow that lingered around the newborn goddess like a living flame. Athena stood tall among the gathered immortals, her armor gleaming like liquid gold, her gaze steady and unflinching. The faint hum of divine energy shimmered around her. The pulse of intellect made visible. The gods stared, unable to speak. Aphrodite, whose beauty ruled hearts, saw in Athena a different kind of grace, not born of allure, but of presence, of power. Apollo, the god of reason and prophecy, lowered his lyre, for even he could not foresee the wisdom that stood before him. Ares, ever the embodiment of raw, untamed war, felt his pride tremble, for here was war refined, sharpened, given purpose. Hermes was the first to move, stepping forward with his characteristic curiosity, eyes wide in wonder. He whispered softly, almost in disbelief, "She was born not from flesh, but from thought." And it was true. Athena was the child not of desire, but of intellect, not of chaos, but of balance. She was the embodiment of what the gods themselves struggled to master: restraint, clarity, and reason bound with strength. Zeus rose slowly from his throne, the golden light of Olympus crowning his shoulders. His mighty hand brushed the remnants of the storm that had torn through his mind. And as he looked upon his daughter, his expression softened. In her, he saw himself, not as ruler or destroyer, but as creator. He saw the best of his own divine essence, distilled and perfected. Athena turned to face him. For a long moment, father and daughter regarded one another. King and creation, lightning and logic, no words were needed. Between them passed a silent understanding, older than fate itself. Zeus spoke at last, his voice low and filled with a mixture of pride and awe. "You are of me," he said, "and yet beyond me. From my pain wisdom was born, and through you Olympus shall never fall to ignorance." At those words the heavens brightened once more. The sun broke through the clouds, and the winds carried her name across the earth below. Mortals would not hear it yet, but their souls would feel it. The birth of thought, of reason, of strategy. Athena bowed her head slightly, not in submission, but in respect. Her eyes gleamed like the dawn as she replied, her voice calm and resonant. "I serve not in defiance, but in understanding. Where chaos reigns, I will bring order. Where fury blinds, I will bring sight." And in that moment, even the gods knew. A new power had joined Olympus, not one of brute force or passion, but of mind, wisdom, and purpose. The air grew still once more as they watched her, the goddess born of thought, radiant and eternal. And for the first time since the dawn of creation, the gods understood the balance between might and wisdom, between the roar of thunder and the calm after the storm. Athena had arrived, and with her, a new age for gods and mortals alike had begun. Part 6. Athena's Destiny. From the moment of her divine birth, Athena's destiny unfolded like a tapestry woven by the fates themselves, intricate, luminous, and eternal. While other gods were driven by passion or pride, Athena's path was carved by clarity. She was the embodiment of purpose, a mind unclouded by impulse, a spirit forged in both wisdom and strength. Zeus, proud yet humbled by her presence, declared her one of the greatest among the Olympians, not merely his daughter, but his counselor. Whenever the clouds of war gathered, it was Athena he turned to, for her insight could see through rage, through fear, through the chaos that even the gods themselves often could not master. She became the patroness of heroes, those rare mortals who fought not just with the sword, but with the heart and the mind. It was she who guided Perseus when he faced the monstrous Gorgon, whispering courage into his thoughts and gifting him the shield that reflected danger itself. It was she who stood beside Odysseus, unseen but ever present, steering him through the storms of the world and of his own soul. Through her, mankind learned that true victory was not born from violence alone, but from intellect, strategy, and the will to endure. To the cities of Greece, she became the guardian, and none more beloved than Athens, the shining city that bore her name. There, the people honored her not as a goddess of conquest, but of civilization itself, of knowledge, art, and justice. The olive tree she gifted them became the symbol of peace and prosperity, its branches whispering her wisdom to generations yet unborn. In her temples, scholars would later say that Athena's gaze lingered, calm, unwavering, eternal. Her presence was not like that of Aphrodite, who stirred hearts into longing, nor like Ares, who filled men with fury. Athena inspired thought, the stillness before action, the understanding before judgment. She was the pause between chaos and order, the moment in which truth could be seen. Yet even as she ruled over wisdom, she never turned her back on strength, for Athena knew that knowledge without courage is powerless, and power without knowledge is destruction. So she walked the narrow path between the two, embodying harmony where others saw only conflict. Her armor shone not as a symbol of war, but of protection, of the courage to defend what is right, and the discernment to know when to fight. In every heart that sought understanding, in every hand that built instead of destroyed, her spirit endured. When a poet wrote, when a craftsman shaped his art, when a leader sought justice over tyranny, Athena's unseen hand guided them all. She was, and remains, the light within the mind, the spark that separates wisdom from folly, strategy from recklessness, justice from vengeance. And so it was that the goddess born from Zeus's mind became the guardian of mankind's greatest gift, the ability to think, to create, to dream. Athena's destiny was not one of conquest or command. It was to teach gods and mortals alike that the truest strength lies not in the arm that wields the weapon, but in the mind that knows when to raise it and when to lay it down. The mind made flesh. Hello. From the tumult of Olympus, from the agony and strife within Zeus himself, came a being unlike any other, Athena, fully formed, radiant, and resplendent. Her birth was not mere spectacle, but a testament. That intellect can emerge from chaos, that wisdom can be forged through struggle, and that the mind, even in a world of passion and fury, holds the power to shape destiny. The Olympians watched in awe as she stepped forth, not as a rival to the gods, but as a guiding presence for them and for mankind. Her armor gleamed not only as protection, but as a symbol of clarity and discernment. Her eyes shone with insight, able to pierce the shadows of deceit, pride, and fear. Through her, mortals would learn the balance between strength and thought, courage and strategy, action and reflection. Heroes would rise and fall, wars would rage and end, yet the lessons of Athena endured, that knowledge is power, that wisdom tempers might, and that understanding precedes victory. In every city she protected, in every mind she inspired, in every hand that created rather than destroyed, her presence remained eternal, a reminder that the greatest triumph is that of reason over chaos. And so, from the agony of a god came clarity, from the clash of prophecy came insight, from the throes of destiny came guidance. The birth of Athena was more than a story of gods. It was a revelation of the mind's potential, a promise that wisdom can arise even from the most impossible of circumstances. From the mind of a god came wisdom itself, a flame to guide mortals through the chaos of war and thought.
And that's it for today's video about the extraordinary birth of Athena, the goddess who emerged from Zeus' mind in a place of wisdom and divine power. I hope you enjoyed this journey into one of the most dramatic and symbolic moments in all of Greek mythology. If you liked the story, please make sure you hit that like button and you subscribe to the channel for more mythological tales, legends, and relaxing storytelling. Your support means really a lot to me and it helps the channel grow. Thank you so much for being here. Take care, have a wonderful rest of your day or night, and I see you next time. Bye bye.